to be left behind. Morvain lingered in the darkness of his own mind, a prison of isolation granted to him by the world he longed to destroy. He didn't regret his choices. The world of man was full of ungrateful imbeciles that couldn't be saved. Their world was far better as ruins to be swept away by the endless stream of time. He had tried and failed to destroy that world not just once, but twice now. The first time he was defeated outright, overpowered by a glorious force of golden radiance, the only man in all these eons he ever truly respected, the only human he had ever loved. Cedric. Before meeting him, Morvain had never known a name could bring such joy or such pain. Since his demise, that name had been as a chasm in his stomach, a painful, ruddy wound in his very being that had been left to fester as a black, necrotic mass of sorrow. He had no idea how long he had been sealed away in the black moon mirror, yet he knew that eventually he would be freed, and with each passing second in this lonely void, his hatred grew. His hatred for those who waited in the shadows as Cedric sacrificed himself piece by piece for their sakes, saving the world again and again without ever truly thanking the man of men. No, they just waited for you to die in order to demonize you. Morvain saw it with his own eyes, the statues that Cedric hadn't asked for being torn down, the books of his heroic acts filled with scandalous words of bitter resentment to be treated as fact by those too young to have known him. He knew all too well what Cedric would have said. He would have forgiven them, would have claimed they were just frightened. Morvain, however, was not so forgiving. They saw what he could do for them, but they never saw what it cost him. The wounds that never truly healed, the wear on his body, and the scars that couldn't be seen. Morvain offered to make Cedric immortal, begged him to stay, and despite his refusal to accept, he had done all he could to relieve what pain he could from his lost love, used every natural method he could think of to extend Cedric's life.
I want to live a mortal life, live as a human, because the world has to learn to move on from me.
The words echoed through his mind like 1,000 stings in his heart. As always, though, Cedric was right. The world had moved on, but he, the one left behind, had not. He remembered the bright-eyed boy that had defeated him, cut through his hordes of undead minions, shredded through his tower, and forced Morvain to his knees. The boy had been a fierce adversary, but despite that, despite all those Morvain had killed, Cedric offered a hand to him, invited him to join forces. Cedric had trusted him, turned the back to him that would have been so easy to stab. Morvain had considered it early on, yet he was unable to bring himself to try. For years, Cedric looked at him with that trusting smile, whether it be in the morning as they woke up side by side, or on the empty battlefields as Morvain patched his broken hero up. He wondered if that truly was, or if that was just how he coped with the suffering forced upon him.
Your life will be far longer than mine, Morvain. Live a happy life. Find new friends, a new goal, and maybe a new love. As long as I remain a pleasant memory in your heart, that is the only legacy I need.
Cedric's final words to him, spoken with another smile just before he passed, words meant as a final blessing that had become his curse, the chains that bound him to what remained of Cedric. Seeing his love's memory defiled had brought him to a rage. He tried to ignore it, to turn a blind eye to the things he knew Cedric would have forgiven, but he would only bear so much hatred. He had rampaged across the continent, an unstoppable force of malice, fighting until either the world that Cedric had loved so much was a landscape of endless desolation, or until a hero rose to kill him. In the end, he had gotten neither thing he hoped for. The great wizards gathered, and though they could not kill him, They were able to seal him in that damned mirror on the day of blackened sun. Weak magicians that paled in comparison to himself in all his dark splendor. Though he supposed the weak had always gathered together for safety, like mice in the sewers. Not once of them had been able to grant his greatest wish. No one had been able to end his existence. He knew he would not see Cedric again where he was going. Yet the faint possibility of glimpsing him through the bars of the pearly gates as he fell to that fiery abyss was enough. The world around him, the shadowy man infestation of his own malevolence, flowing through him like poison in his veins, began to crack and crumble around him. The world spun and shifted its axis as Morvaine's sight was attacked by a light he hadn't seen in ages. When his vision was able to focus, he saw an unfamiliar boy, barely in his adult years, a boy with an ordinary face, with an ordinary spirit, yet familiar eyes. Morvaine sat there on the filthy, ruined stone floor, staring at the boy for a lengthy moment. A palace that he was sure his prison was placed for safekeeping in some long ago era only spoken about in legend. Yet here and now, nothing in the world existed besides he and the boy. Without a word, without a thought of self-preservation or hesitation, the boy held out his hand and smiled that uncanny smile.